best. All right, y'all. So we are actually going to have a good, nice 2-hour block, and we're going to rise and grind with Ortega and friends. So first off, we have Bryan Ortega. Bryan Ortega is a medically retired U.S Army combat veteran from San Antonio, Texas. He is also a cannabis refugee, advocate, lobbyist, entrepreneur, and industry employee. He fled Texas in January of 2017 looking for natural healing and a better life. So welcome, Bryan. And you have Chris with you today, right?
Yes.
Hey, Chris. So Chris Fawcett has always been an advocate for the legalization of marijuana and has a green thumb. After years of studying how to cultivate cannabis, he moved from Texas to Colorado, where he met some amazing growers and sharpened his skills, taking chance to pursue his dreams amongst some of the best. And I am absolutely excited about this. We're going to kind of treat this 2-hour session as our own little church of cannabis and have our own little service this morning. So, well, let's rise and grind, guys.
Good morning, Kate. All the viewers at home, thank you for coming and thank you for joining us. That was a lovely introduction. I appreciate that. So yes, this is our church. This is what we do. We go to work. We work hard. This is my day one homie, Chris, who pretty much taught me everything I know about cultivation, and that's been a long journey coming now. We're here in the great state of Colorado. Taxation is that fest that I thought a lot about what that means to me, and it's hard to put it into words. It's hard to put a monetary value on the healing that veterans are missing out on, that civilians are missing out on. Veterans struggle, and we carry the torch for PTSD, chronic pain, and other issues, but there's a much larger civilian population that suffers as well. And taxation is the pain, the well-being, the needs of the people that are not being met because this plant is treated as a crime in most places.
Yep.
We're not here. We're in the great state of Colorado.
Y'all both fled Texas. I'm still in Texas. And I'm in rural Texas, so it's pretty crazy, because I have anxiety and stuff, and I like to have cannabis as medicine. So you guys doing the fight off somewhere else is amazing because it's eventually going to come here, of the work y'all do. So I appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much. You want to say a couple words for the camera, sir?
Man, I don't know what to say here. I just love doing this. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's, I'm just blessed that I get to do what I love to do. And I never get tired of it. It never gets old. It's the same, like you still smell the smells and you see the flowers when they're done. It's the same as it was like day one, the first time you did it. So, I'm just glad I get to do what I love still.
How long have you been growing?
A long time.
A long time?
Yeah, a long time.
So I've heard the term master grower get thrown around a lot. Would you consider yourself a master grower?
Nah, not by any means. I'm really, really good at what I do. I think I know my stuff, but I think master grower is so it's like I don't think anybody really knows everything about growing cannabis. I don't think we've really tapped into the plant that much, being that it's not federally legal. We haven't got to research it as much as we really want to now. I mean, we've developed a lot over the years, for sure. We've learned a lot about it, but I just don't think we've even scratched the surface with it. So for somebody to say they're a master grower would mean everything about the growing. I mean, I'm learning every day still, so no, I just say I'm really good at it.
Very respectful.
Expert, maybe.
Respect.
Yeah.
Respect. So yes, we're all still learning. It's a beautiful process, and I believe it helps bring that connection to nature and that oneness that we deserve. You want to tell us about this beautiful lady we got back here?
This is just a little lava cake. Nothing special about her yet. This is one of our new ones we're about to check out. We just got that one in, so we haven't got to flower her yet, so we're going to see what she's all about. I'm pretty excited about that, actually.
Yeah, I want to hear about all the strains you got here.
Oh man.
But first, I want to talk about Miss Ashley Weber. Could not make it down here
Yeah.
today.
Is she in the backstage waiting for me to bring her on?
She could be possibly in the backstage waiting. If you want to check that real quick, and then we'll cut to her video.
Absolutely. Let me see if Ashley's on. Okay, so she hasn't made it backstage yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So
That's all right.
as soon as she gets backstage, they will notify me in the chat, and then I will let you know, and we'll go from there.
Great. So we're gonna get her footage queued up. So I went to Ashley's house and spoke to her a little bit about what taxation and stuff means to her, and got a little footage about what she does for home cultivation and why it's okay and why it should be allowed. So Todd, if you want to get that queued up. Yeah. Hi, I'm Bryan Ortega with Green Valley Gardens. Came here to Longmont today to talk to Ashley Weber about home cultivation and how people get by on their own and natural healing. So let's go check it out. Ms. Ashley. Hey, how you doing?
Good, Brian. How are you?
Oh, good. Excited to see you.
It's good to see you too.
So I just drove in from Denver and I came to check out your home grow. Are you ready?
I am. I'll meet you around at the garage.
Okay, let's get started. What's going on, Miss Ashley?
Oh, enjoying the sunshine and springtime, actually.
Long time no see. It's been a while. It's been a while. Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about what you got going on here? I know with cultivation, soil is a really, really important part of the nutrient process, how the plant gets its nutrients, how it gets water for the roots. I see that you're mixing your own growing medium here. Can you tell me a little bit about what you got going on?
Yeah, I like. I never follow a recipe, even as a cook. So I feel with the growing mediums that you find in the store, there's ocean, forest, and sunshine grow. I found that I like sunshine a lot, so I do use sunshine, and then I use sand, vermiculite, perlite, and then just regular organic soil. And if I can get up to the mountains, sometimes I'll get me a bucket of dirt so I can get that good minerals in there, besides the vermiculite. So
vermiculite. So what is vermiculite? Can you tell me more about that?
Vermiculite really will help absorb the water, but it holds a lot of minerals and things that your plant will uptake and need to grow really.
So is that like perlite?
Perlite actually is more of an aerator, more of a rock than it is an absorption for the water and minerals. So that's why I use both of them, and you can see my whole setup over here.
So would this be considered growing in soil?
This would be considered growing in soil, yes.
Okay. Interesting. So about how much buckets will this make?
Well, I've been growing a lot of vegetables and a lot of stuff, so this would cover more than enough for the 6 plants that you can recreationally grow. So more than enough.
Is this what you're putting your seedlings in as well? When you germinate, are you going straight into soil? Are you using rock wool or anything like that?
No, I actually do go straight into soil. And when I go straight into soil, I'll use little holders for my planters instead of the pucks. I like doing it in littler, I guess I would say littler buckets, so the roots can really not bind up, but get really strong. And then that's when you know it's time to transplant.
Right on. Okay, so Let's your nutrients. You said, did we talk about your nutrients that you're adding into the soil? Does this go straight in?
So when I make the soil, it's more just mixing all the soil together. I put blood meal, bone meal, garden tone, all sorts of kelp, all sorts of stuff into the soil. And then whenever I do feeding once a week, I have a different regimen for that. And I have two different companies that I really do like using for that.
Right on. Do you want to plug those companies real quick?
Absolutely. Ambessa is probably one of the best, uh, I would say the best vegetative and bloom anything that I've ever seen. And I love Ambessa. And then the other one is Keto Life. They have a lot of different um, mix and matches that I do like to do the recipes and make my own stuff. So Keto Life in the recipe and Ambessa in if you just want one step.
Now, is there a reason for that you like to make your own stuff? Have you ever used any other growing mediums like cocoa or just straight hydroponic?
I've done straight hydroponics. I don't like using just straight liquid
Uh,
nutrients.
you
I
like that
like
more natural, organic type of
more
growing?
organic soil. I feel
Because it's, I mean, it's medicine, right?
I feel it's an all-around medicine for your body, and just like you would your vegetables, you want to take care of your cannabis and your medicine more so.
Right. So I heard you. We were talking earlier, and you were saying something about if you put the love into it in the beginning.
If you put the love into the soil in the very beginning, you can chill back and watch them grow, and then just at the very end, you get to harvest and enjoy your fruits at the
Fruits of
very
your
end,
labor.
fruits of the labor. And like I said at the very beginning, it might be a little bit more labor intensive, but it's not. Then once a week after that, you just have to water, and it's very simple. So anybody at home, since Colorado has home cultivation and we can have 3 in flower and 3 in veg, it's a good
That's
easy
everybody.
everybody. Amendment 64 passed and allows one each person to grow 6 plants.
And can you have more plants? Are you in the medical program?
If you have a medical marijuana card, you are allowed as many as your doctor will give you. And I do have a medical marijuana card, so I can grow more than the 6 allotted.
Okay, and I feel as many other patients do that there is a reason for plant count. There is a reason for us being able to grow as many as we want to process what you get in your yield versus how much you actually harvest. The minute the amount goes down pretty quick, right?
Yeah, it really depends. I guess I would say on what you use it for and how you use it as a patient and what your needs are medical.
Right.
I do keep the reason why my plant count is high is because I get to juice my leaves and I get to juice everything raw. So I get the THCA in there, which really will help my inflammation and the spasticity and stuff on such a deeper level than just smoking a joint or going
Right.
to the dispensary and getting some dry flower or
Get that whole plant medicine.
whole plant medicine. Yeah, whole plant medicine, especially when you raw juice.
Hmm. Yeah, I can't wait to try some of that juice. Is
I actually freeze it.
is it good?
It's really good. I freeze it in ice cubes, and
Oh,
then I put them in my juice every morning
beautiful.
when I have a smoothie. And
It's very important to ingest cannabis as opposed to just smoking it alone. And then, yeah,
I find that ingesting it has a lot more benefits to the body.
especially the raw, fresh
Raw,
pressed cannabis.
and it's
Beautiful.
all non-psychoactive. So
Well, Miss Ashley, I appreciate you showing us your home setup here and what you're doing with the nutrients. I appreciate everything that you're doing, and it makes me feel very good about the product that you're producing. Can we take a look at what you got going on back here?
absolutely.
Let's do it. All right, Miss Ashley. So here we are in your garage where you have your lovely growing young ladies. Can you tell me a little bit about what it is that we're doing here? How old are they? Maybe a little bit about the strain, and if you want to plug the seed company, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. This is these guys were they popped April 1st. So they
No
are,
joke.
yep, yep, April 1st. So they are exactly 6 weeks old, and they need to get topped and or femmed. I'm gonna try a few different techniques every grow. I like to try a
So
few different things.
when you say femmed, does that mean that we do not know if these are males or females? They're straight. They're all straight from seed.
Yeah, they are. These are straight from seed. I use the genetics that I really like are it's pollination elite genetics. Ryan Rice and his company, they shout out to them, they do an awesome job. um, and this is Pinky's advice and Nana's fix, and actually there's a few train wrecks in here.
Love
And
train wreck.
yeah, yeah, they, you can see they're starting to stack up pretty good. The nodes are
You're getting amazing stacks on these nodes for using a T5. Are they go straight from seed under a T5?
straight from seed under a T5. And actually you can see part of my T5 is shut off right now.
Yes, I do.
So, and a little secret I tried, what I tried this year differently was the nodes you can see on this first one, if you pull it out, are incredible. It's about as long as the leaves itself.
Amazing.
And then this third one over here, the nodes are not near as drawn out from the leaves as they should be.
This one right here.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I see how the spacing is
So,
much different. Are these different genetics?
no, they are the same, but one was planted with a banana peel and one was not.
Are you serious?
Yes. And I used eggshells in one and eggshells in not. I'm trying different things to see where you're going to get the bigger yield, not
Right.
having to do so much.
So growing organically and naturally doesn't have to be fancy.
Not fancy at all. If you're
It,
done with the banana, just toss it in something that it's a closed container so it doesn't stink up your house,
right.
and get one of those browned out banana peels and put it in the bottom whenever you repot it from a little seedling. And it just really makes them bush out.
Yeah. What happened to this little guy?
That little guy is one we actually found on the side of the house.
Are you
So
serious?
it just popped up on his own. So we're just going to
Oh,
see what we can do from there.
love for all.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, everybody
Absolutely.
gets a chance.
Yes.
I love it. So, can you tell me a little bit about how we're gonna find out whether these are males or females?
Oh, yeah. So males or females, I put them into a 12-hour, 12 on, 12 off, and wait to see. You can really tell when the males are going to pop because little ball will come, a little two balls will come off of where the nodes should be. So before there's really any flowering going on and it stresses the plant out, kick it right back into flower. But go 12 on, 12 off, and then just keep an eye on the nodes, and you can really tell the difference between, if you look in the nodes and see the difference. And I wish I had one to show you here today,
Right.
but I don't. I definitely have some pictures that I can send.
Yeah.
Um,
So we, we
when I
don't we don't have any in flowering because you're doing mostly outdoor, right? So this is all we caught you at the time where we're getting ready to go in the ground for the summertime, right?
Yeah, this, so I like to do two different grows in a year, one
Okay.
indoor and one outdoor, because you get different spectrums and different. I've actually had them tested before. You get different CBNs, CBCs, different spectrums
Yeah,
in your weed
cannabinoids are
cannabinoid profiles.
yeah,
And so it was really interesting when I started growing outside because I saw it work a lot better on my spasticity. And with the raw flower, it's amazing because outside you get more of an airier bud than you do indoor, because it's the sun, it's outdoors, what it is.
right. So
So it's not the tight buds that you would expect indoor like you get at a dispensary.
But it's better smoke, better
Better
flower,
smoke, better
better
flower,
medicine.
better medicine, and I use it to juice more so than
So
anything. So
would you say being afforded access to that sunlight is crucial to our sustainability, to our longevity, to the actual medicine of the plant and what's going in to the people consuming it?
I believe the plant needs to see the sun to get the full spectrum profile that's needed for its growth. I mean, no plant's really supposed to grow indoor all the time, but I mean, that's just my perspective of everything. And outdoor is hard to do in some areas because you live in an apartment or you just have a porch. So you just get a little tent and set it up in there, and they have LEDs. And if you use LEDs and HPS, you can get pretty much a full spectrum sunlight.
Nice. But that costs quite
It
a bit.
will in bills, and that's another thing of why the sunlight, natural light, is better. Um, well, always electricity.
We know they tax that electricity.
And they tax this plant now.
Yeah, we're getting taxed pretty hard all around, and that's definitely keeping people from accessing this
Yeah.
beautiful healing herb. So,
So on the very top, if you want to show where we would film it, or filming is it's called it's if FIM for fuck I missed, and it's when you're going to top a plant and you actually miss it. A lot of the growers can either get 4 tops off of that rather than 2. So you won't take the whole node off of the top when you do take it.
are you talking about this terminal bud that's going to turn into a cola right here?
Even the more one inside, you're just gonna
Right here.
the one barely coming out
Bare up in here.
right there, yeah. So you'd take that and just cut the very tips off and just
Can you see that
that's
right
it.
there? That structure.
You take that off, and that's called topping if you take it off at the very bottom. But if you take it off at the top and just take those 2, it's you missed. And I've gotten 4 off of the top instead of 2.
Interesting.
It is. It's a lot of the genetics, and it depends on how strong the plant is in healing itself. But it's an amazing plant. And when after it goes into flower, I pump resin to it so it swells the buds. And to get pump and resin to the buds, it has to be in fear that it's gonna be and it's dying. So I'll either take a nail to it and hammer a nail in the very bottom base of the
Really?
stalk, or you can break the limbs and the stems, and it'll make it swell up really big.
Wow.
Yeah.
So many different techniques and ways to cultivate this beautiful plant.
There's some people out there who can super crop, and I'm not the best at doing that, but that's something I'm gonna experiment with this year.
That's another trimming technique during growth you're speaking of, right? Where you remove these big sun catcher blades starting from the bottom.
Yes, and then you would top it and then just lay it down, and then once you lay it down, each one of these nodes become a top. So it's pretty much laying down on its side, and you just got top, 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 and you won't have to worry about.
Beautiful. Anything else you want to tell me about these young ladies before we go check out the rest of the team?
Well, they're ready to be transplanted into bigger pots, and if you want to show, pick one up and show the roots.
Oh, there we go.
Maybe turn it some more.
Would you look at that?
No.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, once you start seeing those roots popping out, you know that it's time to transplant. And the best way to make a strong plant is to like I said, again, get those roots tightly bound, but not so bound to where they're going
Because
to
root
root lock.
actual root bound is
Yeah.
is not good, right?
Actual root bound is not good, and you'll know when it's root bound because when you take it and you repot it, it'll be
Wrapped around,
and it'll be brown. It won't look healthy.
starts to rot.
Yeah, they need to be nice and white and clean.
Always be attentive to your roots.
Yeah, and if you wanted, we could even take one out and show the roots. The roots are amazing and long.
This one looks like.
Lift. There you go. Keep going. You're good. It'll hold.
Oh,
It'll hold itself. It's there.
oh wow.
So once that root's wrapped around and it's holding, and it can hold that soil together, you know it's ready to go into another pot.
That was good. All right, Miss Ashley, that was terrifying. But these ladies look great. I'd love to see the rest of the house and what you got going on.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to grow. And that's what people are afraid. I mean, you're going to kill a few. That's the way it is. That's how you learn. I mean,
I don't want to kill your ladies. It's like bad karma.
Oh, no. They'll come back. See, I've even broken a stem before, taped it right back up, and it's came right back to life.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful. Well, you're a lot tougher than I am.
Well, these plants are tougher than anything I've ever seen.
I love it. Let's go check out the house.
Sounds great. All right, so out here is the next stage to the babies. After I transplant them, they'll come out here, and we will watch them grow from a different type of light before they transition into outdoor. So this light's a lot hotter, and it'll get them ready for the outdoor sun, and get them weathered.
So this is what we're doing here. We're weathering these ladies so that they get tough. Because I mean, can you tell me a little bit about that? Let's talk a little bit about the light, and let's talk a little bit about the weather because it's cold here at night.
It does get cold here at night, and as the seedlings, I just have them under the T5s with the heat lamp, so they are nice and warm and comfortable and get pretty big. And then when they're about, like I said, 6 weeks old, then they're going to transfer, and it does get cold at night, so you want to be sure. I leave them on actually 24-hour the lights at
These
seedlings,
ones out here?
and I do at this stage as well, because I want them to feel the heat and get as strong as they can. And you can see the stalks on these are much bigger than the ones that were in the garage. Once the stalks get bigger, they'll be able to weather the wind, which is very important here in Colorado because the wind is super.
We get those Chinook winds coming off the front range.
Yeah.
And these flat irons. Do the flat irons come all the way back here?
Yes, I'm right up against front range area.
Yeah.
Here,
so this light is on 24/7. Even when the sun goes down, this light is shining down on these babies, just getting them strong. And that's not going to hurt the plant.
It's not going to hurt the plant. No, I do actually the valerian root. I put valerian root into the soil. So, and as you know, that's for sleeping. So they sleep while they're awake, I guess. And they do a lot of growing when they're in there dark. And when I shut the light off, you'll notice. And I do that at about 2 months. Right. I'll start shutting the light off so they can start getting used to the outside.
This sounds like you're working when you're sleeping. I don't you amaze me every turn, Miss Ashley. And these ladies look very good. How much longer are they away from going into the dirt?
They're about 3 weeks from going into the dirt.
And these have already been tested for sex?
No, not yet. That's why I'll have this on, and then I'll keep the light off and on 12 and 12, and then just stick them out into the nice bright sunshine. And
are we at 12 and 12 yet for the growing season here in Colorado?
Not yet.
So they're still going to veg for quite a while.
We have a lot of vegging to do. We've got about I would say, let's see, what is this? May, June, July,
Oh, I have no idea what
and
month it is.
every day's a day when quarantine,
I'm
right?
still waiting for 420, man.
Oh, me too.
That was just, yeah,
That was sad.
that was sad. We had so many events planned for that, but yeah, next year.
Next year.
All right, Miss Ashley. So I'm assuming that the soil's lost a lot of the nutrients that you put into it initially. Can you tell me a little bit about what you got over here and what you're feeding them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, water soluble once a week is all you need to do. And if they look, I always let the plant tell me what they need. So once a week, I'll do a feeding, and then if it ever looks like they need more potassium or they need more nitrogen, I will definitely just foliar feed that. And foliar feed just means that you feed it through the leaves instead of through the soil and roots.
You're talking about the target nutrients. So if you notice some sort of deficiency, let's say in the leaves or the structure of how the plant's growing at the nodes, you'll hit it through the leaves.
Yep, hit it through the leaves with the foliar spray.
And this is like your base was a nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus.
Nitrogen. Yeah, my NPK usually is what I focus on, but I use molasses and, like I said, valerian root and a lot of other things that you wouldn't normally put into your soil. But microbes are a really big one, and microsium is already in the soil. But like you said, whenever you water and things, just nutrients fall out. So we have microbes, and that's key to life. And you mentioned earlier how I had no bugs in any of
Yeah.
the stuff, which was awesome. And I normally don't because the soil is so strong, and I try to, and I grow organically. So there's ways that you can keep bugs out of the garden. If you have a little yellow container, bugs are attracted to yellow. So just set it in your little garden, and they'll go to that and they'll leave your plants alone. But another one's also sulfur, but you're not supposed to use that after the third or fourth week of flower. So you just want to be sure. But that's what silver bullet is that's what mainly is sulfur. And you can throw that on there and get rid of any bugs. But they've got some great product. Right now, every once a week, I'm using Revitalize, which has a high nitrogen level. It's at a 14. And then this one is Uptake, which has a big phosphorus level.
Nice.
Yeah, and the potassium, like I said, is that'll come in a little bit. That's more in my bloom. This one right here is the bloom grow from Anbessa. So that's just all the goodies mixed together.
Beautiful. And are these the nutrients that you're testing right now, or is this what you've come to find works for you in this area?
After using a whole bunch of different nutrients, I've come to find out these are the two that I do like to use, and that I've found key recipes for. So
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
you find what you like and you just stick with it.
Well, they look great.
Yeah.
I have to hand it to you.
Well, thank you.
So let's talk about the workload here. I know it's quite difficult for you. So do you have some help or somebody that is your hands that does what you need done for you?
Absolutely, and that's what I call my caregiver. My caregiver, they're my hands and my legs, and they let me, and that's what I love about the plant is they let me choose what I want to put into my plant, and that's
So important.
that's the love that's super important for your caregivers to let whoever is the person taking the medicine actually
Cultivate it.
cultivate if they definitely have a certain way that they'd like to do it. Yeah, so I have caregivers, morning, night, and it doesn't take too much work. But once we get down and dirty, we will do a transplanting day and a once a week feed, and I actually have a drip system that I put into it, so it's not so labor intensive.
Right. No, I can feel that, and I can tell just from talking to you that you definitely get the same connection and release closeness to nature that anybody would get from cultivating, because you're, like you said, your brains, your heart, your love goes into these ladies and it shows. Thank you for letting me in your home today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is there anything else that you'd like to show us?
Uh, you know, vegetables are super important to grow with your plants, and there's a lot of grower buddies that do no-till system, and they'll grow right into the ground, and they'll grow squash and tomatoes and pumpkins and all kinds of things with it. And that's a whole nother way to grow. And I think that probiotics in that type of cultivation situation is probably one of the easiest ways. Once you get your ground set up, you don't need to do dirt every time. You can just no till and just cultivate like that. So for people at home, this is one of the easiest ways to grow your medicine.
Is there a little example you can give us of the no-till cultivation? Because I'm trying to picture it in my mind. So, do you just not disturb the soil? You go just put a seed in the ground.
Put a seed in the ground.
It sounds so simple.
It is. It's very, very
It's
simple.
not so growing doesn't have to be complicated.
Doesn't have to be complicated, and that's what I wanted to show you. Even for me, with all of the limitations that I do have, still able to make this happen
Dissolve?
with the right people around you.
Face at the very end of her video.
Surrounding yourself Oh, with the
I
right
see.
people.
That's
definitely
You'll see it.
important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Respect.
Push that chair towards me.
Well, thank you for showing us everything.
All right, that was very informative, and I learned a lot for that one. Not just for cannabis growing, which I'm not doing. I need to make that clear. I live in Texas. I am not doing any of that. But I do have a lot of friends in Colorado who probably found that video very informative. But that's really good advice for plants, for taking care of any plant, really. And I've got my own freedom garden going on with a whole bunch of vegetables. So that was really great. So what you saw Ashley Weber, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce her. She is backstage. We'll bring her on. She is owner of the Hilla Love Hemp High Cannabinoid Spectrum CBD Oil, president of Great Plains Hemp Cooperative, servicing the northeastern Colorado region. However, anyone can be a member. Executive director of Colorado Normal, cannabis caregiver, patient, friend, and above all, a mom. So welcome, Ashley.
Hey, Ashley.
Hello.
Ashley.
That's right.
Hey,
How you
thank
doing?
you so much for doing that video and giving us a tour into your life and your home. That was amazing.
Absolutely. I just wanted to give everybody a little information on how easy it is to home cultivate and get rid of paying those taxes.
Yeah, right. That's the one thing that anybody I've spoken with in Colorado who has become a refugee, especially from Texas, they say, we had to trade off for our medicine, but our medicine is becoming super expensive, even living in Colorado, even though it's legal and they have y'all have the access, that it's almost taxed to the point where it's really hard to get. So
It's really hard to get, and then we see the cost of living has increased because of legalization here in Colorado. So it's kind of a double whammy in both ways.
And do you find it's cheaper to home cultivate than it is to go out and purchase?
Absolutely. I mean, especially if you, in a sense, especially if you have things that your dispensary wouldn't carry, such as juicing. Like I juice my live um, flowers and I juice the leaves and stuff, and you can't get those at a dispensary. So it really depends on the type of medicine you use as well.
Okay. So with taxation is theft, because it absolutely is. Taxation is theft. What have you seen that maybe directly affects you as a home grower, like somebody who's cultivating at home? What kind of taxes or increase in, maybe is it like when you're trying to purchase your nutrients for the plants, or are you having to be under certain laws to purchase seeds from a certain place? Like what kind of, is there any restrictions? Any more
No,
restrictions you know
no,
about?
no more restrictions than what you prefer to grow, what kind of strains you like, and what kind of soil and nutrients work best for you. It's super important to understand the pesticide issue and what you're putting into your plant, because some of the pesticides that people are using that they might not know about, whenever you put a lighter or a flame or heat to that, it can become carcinogenic. So you just have to be safe in what you're putting in your plants.
Because it's ultimately going to go into your body and you want to be careful of
Absolutely.
that. Well, thank
Absolutely.
you so much. That I really enjoyed that video. I
Oh,
guess we'll bring the guys back up because they've got some more plans.
What's going on, Kate? Ashley, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for that video and for letting me in your house once again.
Ashley, please stick around backstage because after the presentation, I would love to do like a question panel for all of y'all at towards the end. So please stick around.
I'll be here.
Thank you.
Hey, Kate.
All right, Brian. So what do you got for me next?
Well, we have so much. I wish we could show it all. First, I wanted to speak about a couple of those things that you guys touched on about home cultivation and where the industry is getting taxed for home cultivators and for the industry. With home cultivation, when originally you really couldn't grow anywhere. You can't grow in an apartment. You can't grow in federal housing. You have to either own the property that you're living at, and or you have to pay for a cannabis-friendly rental, which is usually 3 times the going rental rate. And then the sales tax is pretty high. The industry is getting taxed. I think it's somewhere around 30%, state tax and sin tax, and that savings or lack thereof gets passed on to the consumer. And the the licensing and regulations are a little bit different from the medical program to the recreational program. So in a sense, I personally feel that the medical program here is dying because of how everything's being taxed, all the money and the games that they're playing with people's lives, with our freedoms. There's been medical patients here recently in Colorado that didn't have access to good quality medicine because of all these taxations. So,
Well,
go
so
ahead.
with all that, I now that more states are introducing legalization into their state, are you going to see? Do you think you'll see more competition with taxes and prices and the availability of the product,
Of course.
with states competing for basically medical refugees because
Yeah.
they're going to move around to get their medicine at the best rate, right?
Right. When I first came here as a medical refugee, I had hopes and dreams with this guy to grow, to open our own facility, dispensary, and the laws, rules, and regulations are very hard for the small guy to get started, especially people that are struggling, minorities. Economically disadvantaged people. It's really hard. I think it was like with 300% markup per square foot to find a warehouse to cultivate in, or a place that was zoned properly to open a dispensary. Some of these other states may have a different approach to those rules and regulations, attracting these big businesses from other states. And yeah, it's definitely going to be a competition, especially if they don't turn it over and do something about it federally.
All right.
So yeah, we have another video or series of videos coming up, focusing on Mr. Chris Fawcett here, Cannabis Chris, the phenoholic master.
Nah,
So we just
it's just phenoholic.
Hey, dude, I respect the hustle, man. It just comes out so naturally.
It's a term of endearment, man. I
I
appreciate
I love how you're elaborating on that bio.
Right on. So first, so let's talk a little bit about cultivation and what it is and how we do it. Can you take us a little bit, Chris, from like how do I even, I have a seed, what do I do with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's you you germinate it. So germinating is just
Making it sprout.
Yeah, you just kind of want to you can put it in a napkin. You could just drop it in a cup of water for a couple of days, and you'll see it start a little taproot, and then you just kind of plug it into the soil from there. Kind of like Ashley was saying, it's not as complicated, I think, as people make it.
Yeah, so you can just drop it, because I've heard of people putting it in a towel. Or
wet paper towel, same concept. You put it in the soil. You put it about maybe an inch or so in the soil. I mean, there is some a little bit of knowledge that you need to have to grow it. I mean, it's not foolproof.
Right on.
It's not as complicated either. So you pop the little seed in, and it'll start to grow. And
what do you do after that?
After that, you want to find out if it's a male or a female if you're growing from seed. So like if you get pretty good at it, you start to develop an eye. So at about 6 or 7 nodes or so, a lot of times they'll develop a pre-flower.
Yeah.
And if you get really good, you can kind of tell that pre-flower before it hits the flowering stage, whether it's male or female, and kind of extract them from your garden. Or you can grow from clone, and you'll just have definitely a female.
What do you mean grow from clone?
Grow from clone is just cutting a clipping off of the plant. So like I could just cut this plant right here, put it in a rooting hormone, and put it in some kind of a starter plug, rock wool, whatever I decide to do, and put it under a high humidity dome, and it'll basically just create another replica of this plant right here. So essentially that's another plant. So
I think that kind of segues us into our next video that we have for you, Miss Kate. Roll it.
Rolling.
19. Your mic.
So this is just a little bit of veg space right here.
We're looking at young plants.
Yeah. Bedroom right here.
Look at that beautiful lady.
Yeah. Little large and in charge right there.
Hey, what up? I'm Chris Fawcett. Let's go take a look at some plants, see what we got going on in this room right here. This is our bigger room. We can get plants way bigger in here, so we do like our stretchier strains. We got some Blue Dreams. I'd say probably about 75% of what's going on here is the animal mint cake. She's a chunky girl. She grows big. I mean, we're like 30 days into this room, and it's already blowing out like this. So, yeah, there's going to be some weight in here for sure. A little bit more Blue Dream. This is all animal mint cake all the way down. We are getting some new lights. They did come in today, so we're going to throw those up. It's all going to be double-ended in this room. And I mean, look at the size of these buds for where they're at. I mean, it's just crazy. So we got to do a heavy de-leaf in here. When you're doing like a big grow like this, you gotta make sure that you're watching your transpiration weight. You have all these leaves laying all over each other, you're just gonna get PM and have issues all day long. So we're doing de-leaves before before we bring them in, a couple weeks after they're in, and about 30 days into it. We're making sure that we basically almost take almost everything up to the top floor. So to get the light down there and also to avoid having issues like PM and mold and stuff like that. So. Down here, we got some other strains. I think we got Super Silver right here, some Durban Poison growing out right here. We got Blueberry Freeze. That's a decent one, man. Durban's always a good puller. Nice little indica. Sativa, nice little pure sativa. Got some wedding cakes down here. We kind of do those all in every room. We like to throw these plants in our downstairs rooms and our upstairs rooms just because we want to see how they grow in each room. Some plants thrive better in the other rooms, so that's where they're going to live at. We have different light settings, different light setups, in different pots, and just, you know, so it's nice to see what like an ice cream cake will do upstairs versus what it does downstairs. Same thing with the Sunday driver. That's a stretch of your plant that we typically wouldn't put downstairs, but it does really well, so it just found a new home. Isn't she lovely? Yeah, beautiful girl right there. The wedding cake gelato 33 cross. Wanderlust ice cream cake. These nice little colas on there. I mean, this stuff is just iced out. And you're getting into the GMO over there. That one's got that little stank on it. Mm-hmm. She's still trying to finish out a little bit. She goes quite a while, about 70 days or so. Typically, they don't make big buds on it. We got another one right here with GMO. She's doing pretty nice, man. Those are nice. Nice little chunkers for GMO. Oh, shit. This is one we all have our eyes on right here. Everybody wants a piece of that. So you gotta go and get yours before it's gone, for sure. Heavenly.
All right, I'm gonna go unlock this door for them. Do I got like 2 minutes? 1 minute?
Yeah.
So right here, this is where I start my day at. I like to get the guys together, run over the game plan for the day, make a list of what we need to do. I think that's pretty important with any grow. I highly recommend that you get kind of organized with that. But this is where I'll mix up my nutrients, which we use here, the Athena program. I love this program here. It's super easy to use, super simple. You'll notice, this is something you're going to see on a lot of nutrient products, pretty much everything. Your NPK, nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, and potassium. And that's basically just what percent of what is in this nutrient here. But yeah, these Athena, man, it keeps it simple. I think things get pretty overcomplicated. You can go into a grocery store and spend thousands of dollars on stuff you probably don't necessarily need. This right here keeps it down to what you actually need in the grow. And then we'll add in a couple supplements to our regimen. We use their Stack as well. Stack is not.
Do you add these at different times?
Yeah, for sure, man. So we'll add these in at different times. The core goes with the bloom and it goes with the grow, so they have it pretty simple. And that's flower, yeah. And that's why I like this. It's a 3-part system. So basically, basically I'm going to do core and grow for my vegetative state, and I'm going to do core and bloom for my bloom state.
So there's two different stages that cannabis grows in.
Yep, vegetative in flower. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got seedling stage, but I mean, you're still using the same NPKs for that, and you're just gonna, maybe back off a little bit for your seedling stage for that. But for overall, these are pretty much formulated for these stages of growth. They've got it pretty dialed in to what you need. So we really like this stuff. They also have a stack, which helps with the stacking of the nodes in the flower phase, and this is an awesome product right here. We use this stack first 3 weeks of flower. You're going to do a foliar spray, and then week 4, week 5, you're going to put it into the medium as a root drench. One of the things we use is Power SI. This is a silica, so there's all different kinds of silicas out there.
What's a silica?
Silica is I guess it's another element that you use that a plant needs to grow. Silicas just help strengthen the cell walls of the plants. And when you do that, you make a stronger plant. Basically, it's a PGR. It's a plant growth regulator. What that does is it helps the plant fight off any pest, diseases, or anything like that. The healthier the plant is, the better off it is to fight that. With that, if you're doing a foliar of a silic, you want to do a monosylic acid, which is going to be this one right here, and that's just because it's more available to the plant with your foliar sprays as that. So they've got this developed into a veg and a bloom, which you don't typically see with the silica, but I mean, we've noticed like amazing growth from using this product right here. It's noticeable. I'd say this is definitely worth the money as well. And in conjunction with these Athena products, man, they work really, really well together. So yeah, I definitely recommend that. I also recommend doing a tea once a week. Terra grows a good tea, cost effective. This is a good way to get your beneficials and feed your bacteria in your medium. You want to keep that stuff. Your soil is alive, so we want to keep them fed and happy. Also, with the Athena line, we use their cleanse. Cleanse is something we use that even if you're not using a drip system, this breaks down salts in the medium, and you want to do that because if you don't, you'll get a salt buildup. It's pretty toxic to the plants, so you want to make sure there's something like this in your regimen as well. So really happy with the stuff right here. You can use Drip Clean, Clear Res. We just prefer this right here to keep it with our Athena line. Okay. Tanks, CO2, necessary in bloom and veg. So the CO2 is basically what the plants breathe in. They breathe out oxygen. So we're just enriching the environment with CO2. It'd be like us wearing an oxygen mask so that we it's just a better quality of life. That's the air they breathe, so we're going to give them more of what they want. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is already in the air naturally, but we're increasing the parts per million in the air by giving them more CO2 in the air. Like I said, vegetative state and in flowering. In flowering, you'll cut your CO2 out the last 2 weeks. It's not really being used as much by the plant. They're at that ripening state, so we'll unplug the CO2 and let them just finish out, drop our temperatures, and run with that. But yeah,
going into the grow.
Yeah, into the grow. We use a lot of CO2. That's why we have so many tanks. This is the main station here. Runs from this line here, and then it runs into each room. We try and get those plugged up to the AC vents where the air blows out, so that it kind of disperses evenly throughout the room.
What room is that?
That's one of the upstairs flower rooms. That looks like the Kim D right there. She's almost done. She's got about a week to go. Those are our longer strains that we have left in our room. We had that room totally full. We kind of chop in 2 to 3 different stages depending on when they finish. So you see some empty tables there. The sherbet's still in there.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I'm just getting ready for that slurry drench right there. It's the
That's
Elite 91. Mycos Jordan. What they call that?
It's hilarious.
I know, right? Flip up the slurry drench.
Slurry drench.
Slurry drench.
Slurry drench.
So we're going to make a slurry drench for our transplants here. Slurry drench is just going to be a soak of beneficial bacterias, a little bit of B1s we're going to throw in there, some good stuff that they like, really help kind of speed up that root growth. You're going to start with non-chlorinated water, 6.0 pH. So we're going to use this Elite Mycos Jordan, at a rate of about 75 to 90 grams per liter. Running a little bit low here. I've already got my stuff pre-mixed. It's 50 grams. Got my 1 liter of 6.0 non-chlorinated water. And I'm going to add in that 50 grams of Mycos here. Yes. And grab my stir stick. It's up to you how you want to mix this up as far as your consistency goes. You don't want to do it too thick, so I don't recommend going over the 90 grams for sure. You can do it less like I'm doing now. It's just kind of whatever works for you. You do want to continuously stir this as you're doing your transplants in between, and I'm OCD. I'll do it every clone. I'll stir this up, and the reason is because that'll settle down at the bottom. Okay, so we got our Mycos, we got our good guys all mixed up in there. And then I'm just going to add 1 drop of this Roots, little sauce, a little bit of sauce in there. This is just some good stuff. Got a little bit of nitrogen, got some B1s in there. Just 1 little drop, just like that. That's all it takes. Just a dab will do you. Oh, got a little leaker over here. Okay. And we get that nice and mixed in. And there you have it, slurry drench. There you have it, slurry drench. There you have it, slurry drench.
I like that one because I've only gotten shot for the last one.
And there you have it, slurry drench. All right, I got you a slurry drench ready to go. I'm gonna put it right here. Jason, got you a slurry drench ready to go. So after you get this room watered, we can start doing the rest of the GDPs. There's a couple on this tray right here. And then you got some in this tray right here. These are already rooted. If there's any in here that look like they're pretty much rooted inside the cube that are growing, you go ahead and put those in as well. I'll just kind of pull them up to the front. There's some GDPs right here too. So it's going to be this tray and then this tray, and I've already got tags in all these for GDP, except for those I don't have tags in. Only do GDP in those, and I'll make tags. Yep. So that everything will be that we're working on is GDP right now. It's a nice little dunk. Just pressing on the outside there. Nice and easy in the middle. Yeah. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, yeah? What's up, David? What's up? Yep. No. That happens to the best of us. It's okay, little girl. You'll be all right. Just soak up some of that. Get you right in where you belong. All right. Real quick, get that knocked out. So yeah, glad we got to show you guys a little bit, some of the basics, how to get it started, how to get some clones going. There's so much more we want to talk about, so this one's just about up. I think we want to do 2 or 3 videos, maybe to add on to this one, but definitely glad we got to show you this much for right now. I think that pretty much wraps up this video right there. So.
Cut and hang, man.
Cut and hang, and that's it. That's a wrap for those girls.
So I mean, the plants are pretty resilient. You just put them in your growing medium and water it.
Yes and no. Yeah, I mean, you gotta show them love too.
Right.
Give them a little bit of attention. That's.
Saw you being pretty gentle and tucking them in there.
Well, yeah, man, you gotta be gentle with those girls always. Yeah, I mean, it's you got to just give them what they want. Like we were talking about, a little bit of the NPK, just some of the basic nutrients that they need. Knowing when to apply those. There's a little technicality to it of how and when to water the plants. So I guess it's not just dumping water on a plant and growing a plant. You might get lucky if you toss a seed out somewhere and miraculously you get some weed to grow. But yeah, I guess there's it's easy, but it's not. It's kind of hard to explain.
So there's a general source of knowledge that goes into what they need at certain stages of growth, and then you kind of want to hit that sweet spot. Too much is a bad thing, and too little is a bad thing.
For sure. I mean,
the plants will tell you, right?
Right. Yeah, the plants talk to you all day. All the little leaf curls and purpling the stems and yellowing, chlorosis, and it's all an indication of something that the plant is wanting from you, and learning about that is understanding what that plant is saying and how to adapt to that and give it what it needs. I learned, like I said, I kind of studied for a few years before I actually did it. I read a lot of High Times magazines. I read like the Ed Rosenthal books back in the day, the Jorge Cervantes, I think it was the Marijuana Handbook. I just read them like back to cover. A lot of that stuff doesn't make sense when you read it. And so you start to try and grow. You kind of understand it, but then you go back and read it again, and after you've done it, and it makes more sense. So the more you read it, the more you do it. It's kind of a combination of both. There's a lot of variables to growing, so it's like there's so many strains and different mediums and ways to grow and styles that I think it was like Bruce Lee that said, like, get all the information that you can, but sift through the BS and find out what works for you. And I think a lot of that has to do with growing. There's a lot of information and knowledge you're going to get from a lot of people, and you just got to do what works best for you, because what Johnny's doing in his grow might not work for your grow. You guys got different environments, different lights, and all kinds of stuff like that. You know what I mean? So
those were growing under T5s. Those are those super expensive grow lights?
They're not super expensive. I'd say they're affordable for sure.
What's a T5?
T5 is just a fluorescent bulb. It's a lower amperage bulb. A lot of people use them for like the pre-stage. We use T12s for our clones. T5s will kind of start vegging them in. It's not as what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not as intense of light when they first come out of that clone stage, and then we let them. I don't mind sitting them in there for a week or so before I put them under a metal halide. I prefer to veg under a metal halide. We're actually redoing our mom room right now. We're going to put some double-ended plasma bulbs in there. Some CFLs. They like that blue light spectrum. So
So we're trying to recreate the sun here.
You are. It's almost impossible because there's a lot of elements to the sun that we can't recreate that I still think they're working on. But yeah, for sure. What's cool about trying to recreate it is I guess you can dial it in even more. I could take the spectrum that I need from these bulbs from this that the sun would give off and really kind of dial it in. Like, I mean, when you're trying to sex a plant from male to female, you can give it a cooler temperature. You can give it like a direct blue spectrum and try and get it to be a female, as opposed to like the sun or would have every spectrum in it, and it could be 50-50. So you can kind of finagle it a little bit. But
Kate, do we have time for a couple more videos, or do you want to cut to the Q&A? Is Ashley still around?
No, we've got time. How long? Just if you want to let me know how long the video or two do you have queued up is. We've got another like 35 minutes. So
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. We were having technical difficulties.
what do you
yeah,
mean?
we've got another 35 minutes. So yeah, if you've got another video you want to share.
Yeah, I think we had some close-ups of flushing. One you were talking about. They're unedited videos, so they're a little raw, but it does talk about flushing, and then what you had, ice cream or wedding cake.
Well, technically it's both. Ice cream cake is a wedding cake gelato 33 cross. So
Just show a picture of some buds and talk about some cannabis cultivation here. Let's play the first one. Roll it.
Here we got wedding cake. Yep, we got wedding cake lure. Look at that beautiful frosty plant. She's almost finished. We're flushing her out right now. Woo! Oh my God! Come here. Smell this. You can probably smell that through the camera. It's pretty loud. See it. So we'll let her ripen up a little bit. That's wedding cake. What's that? That's wedding cake? That's a good question. I think it's a gelato 33 cross. So I have to look that one up. Look it up real quick. Phone's upstairs.
right on.
Choice buds. So is that a fan favorite?
Yeah, that one's pretty popular. I think one of our most popular ones is probably like the GDP.
Yeah.
A lot of people like that one. Wedding cake's popular. The ice cream cake is a big one. We got a lemonade that turned out fantastic. I think that was going to be a huge hit. But what I was kind of looking at in that video is like you'll see like how it's kind of purpling out the leaves. We're flushing that plant. What we do, you don't want to go straight into a flush like most people have learned that you just flush a plant by dumping straight water into it, trying to get all the salts and nutrients out of it. What you want to do is you actually want to fade it before you flush it. So you want to go reduce it down to a 50% nutrient solution or maybe even a 25% for the first 5 days before you introduce that straight flush. And then on a straight flush, we'll bring that pH water down to 5.0, 5.2, because I don't want any of the nutrients in the water at that point. I want it to
Flush means getting the nutrients out of the plant.
Right, yeah. So once you stop giving it nutrients in the medium, it's going to start taking it from these warehouse leaves, these sugar leaves, or whatever it can get it from. And we want it to get all the nutrients and extract it out of these leaves. And that's why you see it start to turn yellow, that purplish color. And that's exactly what you look for on a real nice fade to flush.
How important is the water? Talk a little bit about pH and flush. When do you flush?
Yeah, so it's super important. It's one of the, what is it? Earth, wind, water, fire. It's one of the nature elements that you need to even grow it. So it's super important that you're on point with, there's some important things to know about your water. And I think in the beginning, you want to know what your pH is to start with. You want to know what it is after maybe you add a couple of nutrients or additives, and you want to know what it is at the end. And you can check your runoff of your pH too. So that's another indicator of the plant telling you what it does or doesn't need. So if your runoff is higher or lower, then when you put it in, it'll let you know to increase or decrease nutrients. And so there's a lot to it. I think I'd like to do maybe another video or two or three part segment, because there's a lot of stuff that we didn't get to cover in this, and I could sit here and talk about a lot of stuff for a long time and just
look for
ramble
bonus
off,
footage on our website. So, and a little tidbit: if you have one of those home water softener things with you put salt in, you're gonna kill your plants.
Yeah, I wouldn't use that.
I wouldn't use that.
Maybe RO water, but a dechlorinator is actually fine.
You want to set up that next clip?
Yeah, let's check it out.
Here, man, we've been checking this one out. Dope. Check it out. Look at that bud. What's that cola? But this is frosty. I swear it gets frostier every time we come in here. It's a wedding cake crossed with gelato 33. It's got these like little you see these weird little leaves on them. Sometimes they grow kind of strange like that. Yeah, like these they kind of look like duck feet almost.
What again?
Yeah, like right here. You see how it's just not normal, you know? Usually your leaves are all really broad, but they're like narrow and kind of like funky. Like as these are growing in veg, man, that's just like a characteristic of the ice cream cake. But this plant's awesome. I can't wait to smoke that. Nobody can wait to smoke that. I mean, look at those. Oh, cola up there, man. This is great for ice cream cake.
What's that over there sticking in the jar?
No, we'll not talk about that one. It's a fake Hell's OG. And then we got that GDP over here if you want to see a finished product of the GDP. So this is what we got growing downstairs, the GDP I was just talking about. GDP, it's about 63 days. It'll finish, but you want to let it keep going. Like I was saying, how we dropped the CO2 out of the room the last 2 weeks. Another thing you'll do is drop the temperatures. And with your purple strains, that's what's going to kind of inhibit them to get purple. And you can see this GDP is just getting like super perked up. And that's an awesome contrast of those orange hairs to that purple weed. It's a headbanger for sure. Just look how rich that is, man. Citrus sap. This is a TNG crossed with Gorilla Glue on her flush right now. Finishing out. I love the way this stuff smells, man. And I'm a big fan of Gorilla Glue. So I definitely smoke a little bit of this too.
All right, so yeah. That's just some of the later finishers in there. I just like to show off that ice cream cake. I'm excited about it. So
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, she's looking really, really nice in there.
Is it more indica, sativa?
It's probably more on the indica side. It's a hybrid for sure, but definitely probably leans more towards that indica.
That wedding cake's heavy.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy indica, and that's what it is. So wedding cake gelato 33 cross. So she's lovely.
After you harvest it and you cut it down, is that it? Can I just hang my plant up and let it go?
Kind of for the most part, yeah. You want to cut it and hang it. You want to leave all the big fan leaves on there. It's going to help keep the moisture in. You really want to let that thing hang for about 14 days before you do any de-stemming or debudding, as long as your conditions are right. So you want it to be 60 degrees temperature, 60% humidity. You get it in an environment like that, let it go for about 14 days. Then you can maybe cut it down, cut the stems down at that point, and you can start your sweating process. There's moisture inside the buds that you slowly gotta dry out of the plant. And it's kind of it's an art form. You can really like go this whole time working really hard on your harvest and then mess it up right there at the end, not curing your buds properly, and it's game over. You get that hay bud and it just smells like grass. You got chlorophyll that never really got out of the buds. So a little bit of an art form to it, and you get it over time.
You still with us, Kate?
I am soaking it all in.
Yeah.
That's as close as I'm gonna get for a while.
Yeah, there's so much more to cover and so much more to go over. We have hours and hours of footage that didn't make it to the cutting room floor. We'll definitely be offering that later. And starting a new series with Cannabis Chris here called Phenoholics. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, Phenoholics. I just kind of started a website, more of a blog type thing, maybe a hobby. Right now, we're going through a bunch of seeds, trying to find that holy grail like everybody else is. I mean, there's a lot of other pheno hunters out there, so we're just going to jump on board and show what we got and see what we can find. And I want other people that are doing the same thing to kind of hop on there too, and let's just share it and see what we got. So it's kind of just a little hobby. So,
Just a little one. Just a little
yeah,
hobby.
yeah. Understatement, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to bring Ashley in, and I just want the three of y'all to kind of chat about maybe some of the problems you faced, or maybe your like trade, if you want to give it away, like your trade secret. But like, what your favorite thing to do to really just, oh, how precious,
What's up,
Ashley.
CJ?
Oh yeah. Homeschooling the whole life.
Oh, I love it too. I love it. My kids are away for the weekend, so I could do this. But yeah, we really enjoyed the quality time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know anything about growing. Again, in Texas, can't touch the stuff.
Right.
And but yeah, so y'all are the experts, and yeah. So what has been probably the hardest thing with growing?
Finding a place to grow.
All right. I guess with that 300% markup, right, on a rental, that's
Yeah.
pretty insane.
Especially for refugees trying to come out of state, get situated. It takes a lot of cash to do anything because you're not allowed to grow inside an apartment. You're not some HOAs may even restrict it, and then you have to find the city that's zoned for it.
Yeah, and counties, right? I'm Hannah Goodman is saying rural Colorado is dry and you can possess it, but you have to drive a really long ways into the cities to buy it. So they have county laws against growing their own within counties. So what are y'all doing? Is there any way that y'all have like a grassroots program to try to legalize even in the counties and in the cities? Are y'all traveling maybe in the rural areas to see if you can expand? That way maybe it will create more of a supply and bring that price down, you know.
You want to hit
So
that one, Ash?
Sure. We've got many organizations here in Colorado that reach out in consumers' places. We have Colorado Normal. We've got Veterans for Natural Rights. We've got so many other great organizations out there that are going around, and we're talking to each county and city council members and trying to educate them on what the people need. And some counties just aren't right for some things, and some counties are. So you just have to get with your community and make yourself heard on a city council level, and it all starts on a local municipality level.
now, are you seeing the wall that you hit when it comes to the grassroots, like talking to counties and city councils? That are they trying to manipulate a way that or do they want to try to get more money, like create more revenue for the city or the county? Is that their motivation of kind of shutting things down? They're holding out, or is it a trying to force morality issue on others?
I would say taxes. A lot of, I think, Brian, what would you say? Would you say taxes or shutting down home
Can you
grows?
say that question again, Kate?
So when it comes to like hitting the wall in the rural areas, like like talking to the counties and the cities, trying to expand and letting people either home grow or have dispensaries come in, is it because they are holding out, like cities and the counties, are they holding out for higher taxes to create more revenue? You know, are they kind of holding that hostage, or is it or are they trying to force morality, like their own view of morality and what's a sin and what isn't. You know,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
which do you see more, or is it different in different areas?
Yeah, I think you find out in the rural areas of Colorado, some of these areas are more, well, I know of like Teller County is just over the hills from the springs, and it's not very friendly to growing. It's not very friendly to dispensaries. We had a gentleman that used to come with us and testify at the Capitol. He was got injured in the Marine Corps and had brain injuries. They had to remove part of his brain, and he needed cannabis to exist, and he would have to drive 40 minutes sometimes just to get to the closest dispensary, and he was on his own. He was a disabled veteran. He didn't have a lot of cash, didn't have a car, so access for him, especially with that home delivery, was virtually impossible on his own. He relied heavily on the veteran community and the patient community, and that's another thing that's hard. I would guess from the perspective of the patients, it's hard to get out just to get your medicine alone. Let alone show up to when these city council meetings are, when they're having these stakeholder meetings and setting agendas for legislature. It's hard to make it out there and testify at the Capitol. And I think from a lawmaking perspective, they need to see these patients there for them to understand what the needs of the community really is. There's a lot of mindset and mind frame that it's still bad. It's still a sin. It's going to bring in a lower quality of morale and standard for the community, and that's just not the case. We need funding to reach these patients and to help them have a voice.
And one thing that in rural areas, we saw Sedgwick County, they have one dispensary, and for an ounce, they're charging $360. And Holyoke was trying to open up dispensaries and allow dispensaries to be in that county or that city. So whenever they did a special election and a special voting, and it was last 2 years ago actually, and they were going to allow medical marijuana, but they just took a city vote, and it did fail. However, they didn't allow anybody outside of the city to vote, and so pretty much everybody within the Holyoke city, you have your churches and your nursing homes. So that's everybody just had to go there and say, hey, vote no on this. And it turned it down, which then led people to drive to, I think it was Log Lane was the closest. And it was over an hour and a half for the patients to get their medicine at a cheaper price.
Wow. So the high prices, if there is a dispensary out in the rural areas, like away from the major metroplexes, is it because supply and demand? Like there's just the one dispensary, and so they can charge whatever they need, or is it because those individual cities and counties are like charging insane amount of taxes on that dispensary?
I'm
Or
not
is it
sure.
both?
Coming soon. I'll link it through Green Valley Group.
I think it's more cost than supply and demand.
Okay. So are y'all still seeing a lot of black market happening in Colorado? Because I mean, I'm in Texas. That's all you got.
No comment.
No.
Okay. Well, I mean, I just with the home grow, that would be a happy medium, between the states and or the state and the counties and the cities, allowing to kind of decrease black markets. But I mean, it looks like there's still an opportunity for black market to happen even in legalized states, because the taxes have created such a high cost and a high price that people might do illegal things to get their medicine and when they're desperate. I mean, Pete, like you guys, like Bryan, you like moved from Texas to Colorado. That's pretty, you know, in my opinion, as a patient, that's you got to do desperate things to get your medicine, and you know, it doesn't stop there.
No, that was definitely an act of complete desperation. Don't make me cry, Kate. Yeah, it was sold everything I owned, uprooted my family, stepped away from my son so that I could find healing, and I did. But I mean, that's another form. Then it's not just the high price of medicine; it's the access and the different laws that are keeping parents from their children because they need to medicate because they want a better life. I believe I'm 100% more of a productive citizen, and I contribute 1,000 times more to society in a positive way because I am allowed access to natural healing instead of just pharmaceutical pain medication and psychotropics that, in my opinion, the numbers say it doesn't work or causes more harm than good. But yeah, the taxes are hard. I was a medical patient for a while, but if your plant count doesn't mean anything if you can't grow, and the the medical program is lacking. Every time I've gone into a dispensary that has a medical side, um, there's not much of a selection there compared to what's on the recreational side, just because the licensing is so expensive and they're taxing people just to grow the same plant, just in a different tax bracket. It's it's hurting the community. There's mental health crisis facing our nation. People are killing themselves left and right just because they don't have the tools and the resources to access a better way of life, a different approach. Veterans are killing themselves at a very high rate. People know 22 a day, and I think it's 75% times that in the civilian population. Cannabis isn't the answer, but it's a wonderful tool in the toolbox we should be allowed to access.
And it's all about liberty. It's all about having the choice and the individual choice to do your research and make your own decisions for your own health and your own body. And
Right.
yeah, it's
I
definitely a
appreciate
fight
doctors.
I'm glad you're fighting.
I love doctors. I love Western medicine. I'm not anti medicine. I'm not anti pharmaceutical. I'm not anti education, but nobody should be the gatekeeper to my health and well being but me.
Amen, brother.
Thank you.
And especially legislators. Legislators definitely do not need to be healthcare decision makers. So I believe one thing that we need to push on a national level would be let doctors decide motto, and it be a discussion between you and your doctor rather than going to the Capitol and going to the city council and having the discussion of your violating your own HIPAA laws, having to let everybody know what you're going through and some embarrassing things you wouldn't want the public to really hear or know. So some way in some way we need to make this a doctor and a patient uh, uh, medicine, and I can't wait until we can.
But I think the doctors know. I mean, the research is out there. They've been studying it for centuries, in my opinion. But I think that they take an oath to do no harm and to acknowledge um, medicinal benefits. There's research and data that says cannabis helps people. We have an endocannabinoid system. It helps regulate that through consumption. These doctors want to help us, but their hands are tied. They could lose funding. They could lose sponsorship. They could lose their license in some places. So it's an uphill battle, but as long as we're breathing, we're gonna fight it.
So I know that with things going, with Colorado being the first one, a lot of people flocked there, and a lot of people are going to other states now. do you guys have any like collaborations with other states on the growing side? Like, is it like a company or do the commerce laws prevent companies from expanding into other states?
I mean, it's like the saying goes, it takes money to make money, and that's especially true in the cannabis industry with licensing and real estate fees. So there's definitely people who are in the business who look to expand to other states, like we were saying earlier, people that have a more appealing tax laws, rules, and regulations for getting into the industry. So why wouldn't you take your business elsewhere if you could make the same quality product, if not better, and reach more people? That's what I would want to do. Help people.
I'm going to live comments. I'm not seeing really any questions. Renee says, gorgeous plants. Hybrid wedding cake sounds amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Ashley, what is your favorite strain that you grow from home?
I personally like Nana's Fix and Pinky's Advice right now.
Is that a hybrid or sativa or indica?
More indica. More
Okay.
indica than anything, yeah.
All right. Now I read somewhere that really there's no scientific way to determine between sativa and indica. It's mainly you grow it, you smoke it, or you ingest it, and then you decide how it feels, and then you go from there. Is that basically what it is?
Um, I think maybe they're saying that because the genetics have gotten so diluted. Technically, everything's almost really a hybrid unless it's a land race, which means an OG strain that you find out in nature. Puta Roja is one. I think Acapulco Gold, maybe another, and Afghan. There's an Afghan strain that's also one. But I would say indica, you can tell it's an indica because it might have a higher CBD content, which allows for that more sedating feeling. Usually sativas are going to be super, super high in THC with not a whole lot of CBD, and that can give people a lot of anxiety, which my favorite sativa strain is Durban Poison. I feel like it's got that THCA in there that kind of rounds that out. It's actually a great strain for PTSD. So naturally, I've been drawn to that one, and it smells so good.
You can tell by how they grow too. Indicas are typically like a shorter stature plant. The sativas mostly stretch out and go pretty big. So,
and the leaves too. I don't know if you heard Chris there. He was talking about the structure, and the leaves are usually broader on a sativa plant versus an indica. The big sun catcher blades. What do you call those ones?
Fan leaves.
The big fan leaves that help draw in the light and the nutrients. Those that with on a sativa, they'll be more spread apart. Like you could almost read through it. In indica, it's not going to be a lot of spacing in between.
So, if I were to come visit friends in Colorado, what are y'all recommending I try if I walk into a dispensary?
If you're new,
What do we?
I'm not new. Just I'm that level would be something new to me.
Well, address what you think you like, what you've been told is indica or sativa, and based off of that, it's really hit or miss. You just kind of try everything. Go by what looks good. Bag appeal. Go trust your nose. Usually, if something smells good to you, it's gonna taste good, smell good, and make you feel good. Give it a shot.
Is there okay? So there you ingest or like gummies, brownies, that kind of thing, or you can smoke. And then of course you've got the oils as well. Do one strain do certain strains do better as in like to make as a gummy rather than smoke? Is there Is there any kind of difference, or they all work well?
Talk about that.
Yeah, it might. I mean, I know it makes a difference with like live resin and stuff like that. Some plants just produce more resin that are better for making maybe edibles. I'm not really too familiar with how they process edibles, but I would say, yeah, I mean, and obviously if it has a higher THC content, it's going to make a more potent edible. I don't really mess with edibles too much. Mm-hmm. They kind of rock my world. That is not for me at all. So, but yeah, I would say, yeah, there's probably some technique to that. Picking your plants. I know we pick plants specifically for live resin because of their terpenes and just how much they produce and what percent of live resin we get off that plant. So I imagine it's probably similar for edibles as well.
Okay. How long have you been growing at home?
Ashley.
Oh, okay.
I've been growing at home. I've been a patient now since 2009. So since then, and I've had different caregivers and throughout the years as the laws change, and caregivers were cut short on their plant count. Now it's difficult for people to find growers to do what they need to. So just that's why I wanted to keep it simple and show people how to do it. So because it's definitely hard to find growers, like Bryan was saying.
Well, we're coming to our time. Is there any bit of tidbit information either any of y'all want to share with everyone about your experiences or advice?
Yeah, don't go straight to concentrates if you're just coming here. Edibles are a good place to start. Don't eat the whole bar. But yeah, edibles definitely hit people different. Well, for me, my experience, edibles hit me way different than actually consuming cannabis. And even initially, concentrates or dabbing will affect you in a much more potent, strong onset than just smoking a joint. Smoking a joint is probably like the smoothest, most easiest way to kind of get your feet wet. Other than that, no, just thank you for having us, and this is wonderful.
Ashley, anything to leave us with?
Start slow. Edibles definitely will kick in later, like Bryan said. I'm a big edible fan. It helps my spasticity and it's longer lasting and longer acting. So I guess really the advice that I would have to give to everybody is do your own research, know what your body needs, and there's so many different ways that this plant can be used, and it's very simple.
Yes.
Well, thank you all. I didn't know if Chris had any last things he wanted to leave us with.
Say a couple words for the camera.
I don't really. Yeah, I mean, just take it easy, do what works for you. Is kind of what you're saying. I personally, I don't think I'd start with the edibles or dabs for sure. Maybe like a lower potency strain, kind of ease into it. I think when I first got here, I hit some Incredible Hulk or something like that, and it just knocked me sideways. So yeah, just do whatever works for you.
Well, thank y'all so much for coming on, and y'all had so much information that we had to give you a 2-hour block, and I have enjoyed hanging out with y'all and learning a lot, even though I'm not able to do anything with that information myself at the moment. But I really appreciate you guys inviting us in to your workplaces and your homes and giving us an inside look of what's going on in Colorado and what y'all do to create medicine. Create natural medicine. So thank you all for what y'all do. Keep fighting the fight. Taxation is theft. And yeah, guys, so thank you so much. Next up, we're going to have Thomas Queter. Our schedule had changed a little bit, so y'all stick around. We're going to take a break. And if you want to see the full schedule for the rest of the day, you can go to taxationistheftfest.com. Thank you. We'll be back.